Hey ladies, come on in. Welcome to Donna's Sewing Circle. How are you doing today? I'm so glad you found me. You must be a beginner quilter because that's what I teach here. So I'm glad you're here. This is day 6 of the 15-day series. Today I'm going to teach you how to cut fabric. So that's always a fun part, fun thing to learn. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, I purchased a yard of fabric at Walmart. We're going to open it so I can show you how it's going to look. One of the first things you want to do is you want to find the selvage end. This is the selvage end. That's always important. It tells you the grain of the fabric. And if I'm going to be cutting a lot of squares and they're all going to be the same size, I like to even my fabric out, lay it out on my mat. I have a fold here and I have a fold here. I'm actually going to cut that fold off. Notice my selvage is here. I want to cut with the grain. Okay, so what we do, I'm cutting off this edge here. That way my edges are lined up. I've got the crease cut off or the fold cut off. So now my pieces will be attached when I'm done. You open your fiskars, push this button that drops the blade. This button pulls the blade back up. You always, when you're cutting, always cut this direction. Do not go up and then down. That's how people get cut. So you always go forward, press down. It requires pressure. Then you remove your fabric. Now, I cut this along my line here. See this line? My fabric is now even and it's ready to cut. With this kind of mat, this is the kind I recommend that you get. Ones that have a 1-inch block. And then it's got little dots here that measure 1/4 of an inch. So 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch. So that will help you for when you need to make incremental cuts. Okay, so I'll smooth my fabric out. If you have creases, they need to be ironed. You don't want to cut wrinkled fabric because it can mess up your measurements. Okay, we're going to cut 5.5 inches. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I said 1/2, so that would be the dotted line in the middle. And it's 7.5. So I lay this here at 7.5. I go down here and I've got 7.5 down here. So I want to make sure my ruler is at 7.5 on the top. Recheck down here, 7.5 down here. And sometimes I check it 2 or 3 times because it can shift. So then I hold the ruler down, apply pressure, even pressure all the way down. This is a self-healing mat. You don't have to worry about cutting through it. And a lot of times it's called self-healing. So it's supposed to come back. Okay, so now I've got this long strip, 5.5 inches. Now, if I've got a lot of blocks to do, I'll lay this aside and I'll cut the rest of this yardage at 5.5. And then I'll line them, then I'll stack them together. I don't recommend going more than 6 layers at a time, depending on how sharp your blade is. Because 6 inches of fabric, that's about all your sharp razor cutter will do, rotary cutter. So I want my blocks to be 5.5 inches. This is 5.5 inches this way. So I line it up. And then I'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, which is here, which is at 8.5. So I'll measure down here at 8.5. I'll line it up, make sure it's even. Then I'll cut. Like I said, I may cut 2 or 3 sections at a time. I'll layer them on top of each other. That makes it faster. And then I'll have a pile of my pre-cuts. I don't have to go to a hobby store and buy a bunch of pre-cuts. I'll just make my own. So that's how you cut. If you have any questions, I love to cut. Cutting's fun. And I'll set my fabric out and I'll get all my cutting done. Usually takes an hour, depending on the size of the quilt, to get all your fabric cut to the right size. So it could take up to an hour for a quilt that we'll be making. For Jacob's Ladder, I'll give myself an hour to cut this. And it's 3 fabrics, and the size of the quilt is 45 by 45. So if one of my students or somebody says, can you cut fabric for me? I usually charge them a minimum of $10 because it takes me an hour to cut their fabric. Now, if you joined my class on person, I always cut people's fabric for them as part of the class. So please don't send me your fabric if you're from out of state. I'm not going to cut fabric and send it back. I may sell fabric in my store at one point, and then I can have pre-cuts that way. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to cut people's fabric and send it back to them. So please don't ask. All right. It's been good seeing you again. Thank you for joining me. Check out my book in the comment section, my Welcome to Beginner Quilting series. It goes along with the series. It's 15 chapters, and this is a 15 video series. So you can follow along, and then the book is good for once the video series is done. That way you don't have to keep referring back to the video series. You'll have something there in your quilting library to help you as you quilt. I will see you in the next video. So I'll see you in the next video, which is how to read a quilting pattern. So I will see you next time. And let me tell you, some of them quilting patterns in the magazines are hard for me to read. So we will try to get through this together. I try and make my patterns pretty simple. I've not had anybody complain about them, but I try to write mine in plain English so you can understand it. So we will stumble through that together, and I will see you in lesson 7. God bless.